Good morning, everybody. Mr. Smith back here. I'm back with another Java programming video this morning. Well, today, actually. So we are going to be progressing through the Love Phony Pigs lab, and we're reaching our third and most challenging problem yet, which is PigLatin. So if you're not familiar with PigLatin, PigLatin is basically, I guess it's kind of a fun language. You may have heard of it, like Smith would change to Ithsmaway. I don't know. So there's basically this whole algorithm of how you change words around to turn them into Pig Latin. All right, so we're going to be working on that today. So if you go ahead and start, let's take a look at Pig Latin. I've got some examples pulled up here just straight from Google. So basically, pig, the P here moves to the end. All right, so you take your P, you move it to the end, so you have IGP, and then you add AY. So it becomes IGPay. All right, the word Latin, move the L to the end, and then add AY. All right, so that's kind of the algorithm here. The only time it's different is if it begins with a vowel. All right, and we will take a look at that. I have that explanation in the lab. All right, so if you pull up your lab, I don't want you doing a ton of things, but I do want you, we're not going to handle punctuation, and we're not really going to handle keeping capitalization throughout the whole thing. But what we are going to do is handle moving the consonants to the end, and then also if it's a vowel, you just add a y. All right. So we're going to go ahead and jump in and get started. So what I am going to go do first is I am going to pull up NetBeans, start a new project, click next, and I'm going to name it PigLatin. I'm going to name it PigLatin Video because I'm making my video this morning. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take out all the comments. So that way I have a little extra room. All right, so let's take a look at the lab again. All right, the basic rules of PigLatin are simple and they can be found here. If the word begins with a consonant, you move the leading consonants to the end of the word and then append AY. If the letter is a vowel, then you append WAY on the end. All right, so we kind of have these two scenarios. So instantly in my head, I'm thinking if consonants, else vowels, or I could do if vowels, else consonants. But first, we need to take in a sentence from the user. So let's handle that. Let's go ahead and get that part out of the way. All right, so going up top here, I'm gonna basically go through the four-step process of a scanner, but this time I'm not gonna comment it. All right, at this point you should know how to create a scanner. All right, so java.util.scanner. Then step 2 is to actually create the scanner. It has to be static because it's outside of the main method. So if we want to use it in the main method, it needs to be static. All right. And now down here in the main method, we need to prompt our user and store their sentence. But I think I'm going to give them a nice welcome message first. So welcome to the Pig Latin Translator. Yeah, that's good. I think I'm even going to print a series of dashes. We might need to go back and change the amount of them later. All right, and now I'm going to ask the user to enter in their sentence. So please enter in the sentence you want translated. So I'm going to change this from a print line to a print so that they can enter it right after. And then we want to store. So I'm just going to call this the original sentence. And we're going to scan it in with our keyboard. Remember, we got to use next line here. If we use dot next, we're only going to get the first word they enter. So we need dot next line so it'll scan the whole entire sentence. Okay, so at this point, we have asked the user for a sentence, and they're going to input a sentence. If you take a look at the lab, I give you this hint down here. It says you may use a string split method, and what the split method does is it'll actually take the sentence and break the sentence up. All right, so that way instead of having a whole sentence, you have a bunch of words. However, we have to store those words, so I'm going to introduce you to a new data structure today, and it's called arrays. All right, so let me get my trusty Paint app here. All right, so I'm going to talk real quickly about arrays. All right, so let's say so far we have always dealt with just having like an int or a few ints or a few doubles or a string or a couple strings. But in Java programming, if you have a lot of strings, a lot of ints, a lot of doubles, you need somewhere to store all those into so you can kind of loop through them or access them in an order. So I like to think about arrays. This is how I think about arrays. You can think about them your own way, but I like to kind of think about them as train cars. So if you think about a train has all these cars. So in my mind, an array is like a train. So this is an array. So let's say our user inputs the sentence, my name is Mr. Smith. Let's do that. So let's say our user inputs the sentence, my name is Mr. Smith, and this is a string. Well, I want to be able to split this up into a series of words so that way I can look at each word and change each word. When we go to do the PigLatin, we've got to look at each individual word and change it into PigLatin. So I got to change pig, then I got to change Latin. So what arrays allow us to do is we can take this sentence and we can split it up and put a word into each box. So really, what we're going to use is the dot split method, which is part of the string API, and whatever you put in the parentheses here, but in our case, we're going to put a space. So what it's going to do is it's going to go find all the spaces in this string, and it's going to split up the string based off the spaces. So it's going to scan through and find my, then it'll find the space. So then it'll take my, and it'll put my in here. Then it'll go through, and it'll see name and then a space. So once it hits that space, name goes in there. Starting to wish I used a smaller font on that. All right, there we go. All right, keeps going, finds is. All right, then a space. Every time it hits a space, it almost backtracks and then does a split and puts that word into an array. All right, Mr. and Smith. So we had one string, then we used the split method, and it broke that string up and we stored each word into an array box. All right, so you're going to think to yourself, all right, well, how do I access those words now? Well, just like we've done with strings, each word or each array box has an index and they start with 0 just like with strings. So if I want to go and I want to use, so these are index. All right, these are the indexes. All right, so if I want to go pull out Mr., I'm going to pull out index 3. And the way we do that is you would say array name, and now we're going to use square brackets and say 3. All right, so array name 3 would pull out Mr. Another example, whatever the name of the array is, and I say, let's say 1, that would pull out the word name. All right, so that's how we're going to go about doing PigLatin. We're going to take a string, we're going to use the split method to turn it into an array, then we're going to use loops to track through all of these different words and change them. All right, this is a lot more challenging than we've been doing. So you're really just going to have to pay attention and follow along. Again, this video is for support and remediation, so we will be going through this in class, but this is for support to help you. So let's get started because this is going to take us a good 15-20 minutes. All right, so let me click save. Arrays. All right. So what I want to do first is I want to do this split stuff, and I've given you a hint here that kind of tells you exactly what to do. So what I want to do is I want to split it by putting it in an array. So I'm going to say string, and then these two brackets, all right, so those are the square brackets with nothing in them, indicates that it's an array instead of just a string. All right, so string array, and I'm going to call this split sentence, is equal to the original sentence dot split, and in the parentheses we put where we want to split. So we want to split at all the spaces. So again, we're taking the original sentence, which is what the user types in, and we're splitting it at all of the spaces and storing those into an array, which is all those little boxes. So we're going to store each word into the array. So now that we have split our sentence, let me add a comment so you know exactly. All right. So you split a string into an array of words at the spaces. All right. So now we need to loop through the array of words, and so yeah, we need to loop through the array of words. All right, but we have to decide, do we want to do the consonants first, or do we want to handle the vowels first? Which ones do we want to handle first? Consonants or vowels? I think in my code, I'm going to want to handle the vowels first because that's a little bit easier of a process. So let's write our loop. So it's going to be a for loop because we know how long the array is. We know where the end is. And I'm just going to say int I is equal to 0. I is less than. All right. Similarly to a string, the way that we get the length of an array is we say split sentence dot length. All right. With a string, you have to have the parentheses. With an array, you do not, and that'll just come with practice. Alrighty. So now we need to decide if we want to do vowels or if we want to do consonants. I think I want to, in the if statement, I want to do the vowels first. So if the first letter of the word is a vowel, then we just append way. All right, so we need to check to see if the first letter is a vowel, and if it is, we just add way to the back of it. All right, so basically we're gonna kind of do this the long and hard way, a little bit of copy and paste. So if split sentence, all right, so that's my array of the words at I, so that'll give me, so as we loop, when it's 0, it'll give me the first word. And then as it increments to 1, we'll get the second word. All right, so split sentence, square brackets, I. And then we want to see what the character at 0 is. That'll give me the first letter in the word. So split sentence at I gives me the word. Char at 0 gives me the first letter. And I just want to see if it's an A, or if split sentence I char at 0 is equal to a, apologies guys, kind of hit a weird spot there. Oh, capital programming issues. All right. And a low. So I need to check for a capital A and a lowercase a. All right. So if we find that, we're going to do something. But that's the thing, guys. We gotta check for every vowel. So I'm gonna add another or on the end here. And then we're just gonna do the same process. Control V, add an or, Control V. Oh, I would make these line up. So when I'm programming and I'm doing multiple lines, one of the reasons I'm doing multiple lines is for this video. But you just have to you got to make everything line up so that you can understand what's going on. All right, so this will be A, this will be E, this will be AEI, this one will be O, this one will be U. And guys, in PigLatin, I found this out when I programmed this my first time. They actually recognize Y as a vowel. So you've got to do Y also. So A, E, lowercase I, O, U, and sometimes Y. All right, so what this is saying is it's saying if we take the word we're looking at in the array and we look at the first letter, and if it's a vowel, then we want to do something. So what do we want to do? Well, if we take a look back, if it's a vowel, then we want to just add way to the end. All we want to do is add way to the end. So we're going to just go ahead and create a string. So as we're doing this, we're going to manipulate the word and then add it to a whole new string. So at the top, I always like to put the variables at the top. Y'all know that. Variables. String, and I'm going to call it Latin sentence. Sentence is equal to nothing. Oh, so we're going to have an empty string that we're just going to put stuff, we're going to concatenate to as we go. So that means that once we have found our word, we can then add it to our Latin sentence and change it by just saying Latin sentence is equal to Latin sentence, so whatever was in the sentence before, plus our split sentence at I, so whatever the word was. So split sentence at I will give us what the word was, and then we just add way to the end. All right, so we add way and then a space. Do way and a space. That way we have spaces between our words. Yep, so if the letter of the word is a vowel, then we just append way. So we look to see, we use split sentence at I to see which word we're looking at, and we're looping through all the words in that array. All right, remember? So let me pull that up just so you can I can quickly remind you. All right, so if this is our array, all right, split sentence at I will first look at, when it index is 0, it'll look at my. When index is 1, it'll look at name. When index is 2, it'll look at is. All right, so we're just looping through that array of words, and we're looking at the first letter to see if it's a vowel. If it is, then we append it. We append it to our new sentence we're making, and we add a way at the end. All right, so I did that one because I did the vowels first because it's a little easier. There's not as much thought that went into that. Okay, then on the other hand, our else condition, all right, our else is if the first letter of the word is a string or a series, I guess, series of consonants. All right, so that's like TR, BR, PR, all right. A lot of words start with a couple consonants, sometimes even like thrush, 3 THR. So we actually have to find all of the consonants in a row. So it's not just the first letter anymore. We have to find every consonant in a series, then move it to the end. So basically, we're going to scan until we get a vowel. All right. So again, we're going to have to loop, right? So I'm going to use a different I'm going to use a different iterator. I'm going to use J this time because we're going to need an I and a J. This is going to be a little complicated. All right. So J is less than our split sentence at I dot length, and then this will be J plus plus. All right, this is going to be that's going to be our loop that handles the rest. Sorry, I put a 0 in there. All right. So basically what I'm saying is we have our array of words. I want the length of the actual word. So split sentence at I will give me the word that we're looking at. I need the length of the word because what we're actually doing now is we're looking at name, and I need to loop N-A-M-E. So I'm looping through the word. This first loop is looping through the array. This loop is actually looping through the word itself. So this is going through my name is, and let's say we're on name, and then here we're looping through the word name. So N-A-M-E. Confusing, I know. All right. So now we need to see if it's a consonant. So what I could do is I could say if the character is an A or is a B or C or D or F or G, but that's a lot. So we're going to go back to our vowels and we're going to see if it's not equal to a vowel. So the way I do that is I say if my split sentence at I and char at J. Remember, we're looping through the word, so we're not using number. We're not in this top one. We use 0 because we're looking at the first letter. Here, we're trying to look at every letter. All right, we're starting with the first one, and then it's going to loop through the letters. All right, and then we're going to see if that is not equal to A. And so basically, this time we're going to use and because we need it to not be equal to A. And we need it to not be equal to E. And so if it's not equal to any of our vowels, it means it has to be equal to our consonants, right? So we're just checking to see that it's not equal. And then I'm going to put an and on the end. So that way I can do a nice copy and paste here. Same thing we did last time. Paste. Paste. So what do I have there? A-E-I-O-U, and sometimes we have Y. All right, so A, E. So we're checking if we're not equal to a vowel. A-E-I-O-U, sometimes Y. My U mysteriously looks like a P. All right. So we have this whole if statement. Now I had to add another bracket there, and now we actually need to do so we're saying if it is not equal to any of the values, then we're going to do something similar like this, but we need it to be temporary. And the reason why is, let's look at Smith here. We have 2 consonants before we hit a value. So we need a temporary string to keep track of the S and then the M, and then we can move both of those to the end. In our first case, we were just checking the first letter, so we didn't need anything. So we have to temporarily keep track of how many consonants and then move them to the end. So to do that, I am going to create a temporary string inside this else. And I'm just going to call it temp word because it's going to be the consonants. And I'm going to make it empty. I'm going to go back down here underneath where we checked to make sure it was not equal to vowels, which means it's equal to consonants. And I'm going to say temp word is equal to the temp word. All right, so whatever's in temp word, we're going to keep adding. And we are going to add the character we are looking at. So, oh, sorry, not input slip. Split sentence at I dot char at. All right, so that'll be the letter. So we're adding, if we don't find a vowel, let's add the consonant we're looking at to temp word. All right, and you're going to see where temp word comes into effect. And then else, so this is when we found a vowel. So again, look at Smith. If I loop through this, I'm going to find the S, then I'm going to find the M. So this will be the if part, and then I find an I. So it's going to go to the else now. And that's when we want to move these two letters to the end and add AY. So inside of our else, we're going to say Latin sentence is equal to the Latin sentence plus plus a substring of the word we're looking at. So split sentence at I dot substring beginning at J. All right, so let me explain that. What I'm saying is if currently in the loop we're at the I, so we got into the else, I want to make a substring of I to the end. So that's what I just did. I said we're here. Let's go ahead and make a substring of I to the end. That's what that is. Then we want to add our temp word, because remember the temp word is our consonants. Then we want to add AY space. All right. So at this point, our consonants, we're out of consonants. We've reached the vowel. So we actually want our loop to break. So the way that we break our loop is we make this condition true. So I'm just going to say J is equal to input or split sentence at I dot length. All right. So I'm just making it true. All right. If you ever want to break a loop, just make your condition true. So at this point, we have converted the word to PigLatin. So I make my condition true to break the loop. So now I just need to figure out where to print the final word, and it would be right here at the. So I'm checking my brackets here. So I know that's the else, that's the if, that's the else, that's the for, and then right here I'm back to the main method. So I'm going to put it right here, and I'm just going to print the Latin sentence, but I'm going to make it lowercase. So that way I don't have to worry about any capital letters that may have been moved around. So I'm just going to print it and make the whole thing lowercase. So kind of a long program. This video's been 30 minutes, but there's a lot of good stuff in here. I hope I made some good explanations. So let's go ahead and run it. All right, so welcome to the PigLatin translator. Please enter your sentence. Let's look at the lab and enter that sentence. So in the lab, they don't actually give us a whole sentence, but they do pig and Latin. So let's do PigLatin. So PigLatin, and it comes out igpe atenlay. So let me look. Yep, igpe and atenlay. All right. So let's go back and let's see if I still have this open. All right. So let's test some of these. We have banana, Will, Butler, happy duck, me. All right, banana, Will, Butler, banana, Will, Butler, happy, duck me. All right, so it becomes Anna Bay, Ilway, Utler Bay, Anna Bay, Ilway, Utler Bay, and then it becomes Appy Hay, Ukday, Imme, Appy Hay, Ukday, Imme. All right. So it looks like we've done everything correct. So we've got a working PigLatin translator. I don't know. Maybe you go to college, you take a little PigLatin connection. I don't know, extracurricular class, and you walk in and you're sitting at your computer and you're just translating like crazy. Everybody thinks you're the smartest kid in there. I don't know where this will be useful, but maybe one day. But yeah, guys, that's it. I hope it wasn't too complicated. I know it is. There's a lot going on. There's nested if loops, nested for loops. I just showed you arrays for the first time in this video. Um, but I wanted to give you a challenging one just to kind of see if your brain would start making some connections. So I do appreciate it, guys. As always, if you could please like, subscribe, share. Trying to get a little more traffic onto my channel. And I will see you guys this week. Let me know if you need anything and have a great one.